For the record, Stephn just said to me, I don't know how long we're going to be doing this podcast, so he's trying to break up with me and all of you right now. What do you want to say about that?
We can't do revival forever.
Well, why not? Like, there's other things we're going to do forever. Why can't this be one of them? Breathe, eat, go to Disneyland. People don't get sick of these things. It's fine, everybody. Just, I won't let him break up with us, you guys. That's my vow to you. So happy that you're here. We're here, wherever you are, in your car or on a walk or something like that. Enjoy it for now, I guess. Welcome to Revival, a Good News Brand podcast.
I'm Stephn Taeger.
And I'm Dave Butler.
Here we focus on the good news.
3 headlines each about the thrill of being a person of faith.
We are so glad you're here.
Yeehaw. Think of that lady who's so nice. We need a shout out to our friend Tara from Canada who sent us Cadbury eggs and Cadbury candies because she says in Canada, they serve them all year long. Serve them, sell them, and serve. It's a service. It's a charitable organization. And she sent us some. And they have these mini ones that are so good. Anyways, thank you, Tara, for that package. Everyone else, you don't need to send us packages unless you want to convince Stephn to stay. Then that might be...
Feels like priestcraft.
Appropriate.
Like what we don't want to do.
All right. The sponsor, speaking of candy for this episode, the unsponsor, because we come up with a fake sponsor every single week. And by we, I mean me. And the sponsor this week is those Trader Joe's strawberry candy belts. I just had one for the first time in my life. I love Trader Joe's. They're a sub-sponsor. They've got, I don't know why, they've got such great marketing because they make me want to buy all the things. Their flowers are awesome. But now I will be going in for the strawberry sour candy belts at Trader Joe's.
I just had one too and it was fantastic. Do you like Sour Patch Kids?
Yeah, not as much as those now.
Wow.
Those are good.
Really
Sour
good.
Patch Kids are sometimes a little too chewy. And those are fantastic. So thank you, Trader Joe's. Thank you, Strawberries. Thank you, Tara from Canada. You're making me want to stay. And Stephn too. All right, y'all. The talk for this week. If you ever need the schedule for the talks, they're on goodnewsbrandco.com. Go there for the schedule, for the free printouts of general conference stuff. So many awesome things there. But the talk today is Elder Cook. It's called The Atonement of Jesus Christ Provides the Ultimate Rescue. I really, really liked this talk. And I'm not just saying that to be a church guy. I genuinely, I was like, wow, it kind of surprised me.
I can validate this claim. Dave walked in and said, that was a great talk.
It was so good. I think maybe I was in a mood or I don't know. Anyways, I had a hard time picking 3 headlines. So I have 6. I was hoping you'd pick the 3 I didn't pick.
Maybe
we'll see what happens. Okay. 3 headlines each. Stephn usually gives paragraphs. Okay.
Here we go. Number 3, the Pioneer Experience provides Latter-day Saints with a unique historical tradition and a powerful collective spiritual legacy.
Okay, you didn't pick mine, but go ahead. I'm excited about it anyways.
You know, I study a lot about storytelling and the power of story, and I think about stories on 3 levels. If this gets too technical, just stop.
I'm already loving it.
So there are individual stories, like today I went to the store or whatever.
Okay.
Right? And then there's teaching in a way that has a narrative arc to it, a story structure to the way you teach. But then in the background, there are stories that we take up, identities and ways of being, and stories that feed how we see the world and how we understand ourselves and other people.
Like what? This is so smart.
So, for example, the central to the Jewish identity is the story of the Exodus, right? Which is a beautiful place to start, is that we were delivered, right? For Christians,
like that's the story of their people.
And it's a central part of who they are and how they understand the world. Is right. We start off by God delivering us, or one of the founding narratives is that God delivered us from Egypt, right?
Yeah.
And so for Christians, the same thing. Our founding story is that Jesus, or similar way, Jesus delivered us from sin and death, right? Which took place over Passover, and it's our Exodus is the way we would think about that. Right?
So is it because we do the sacrament every week that has become our story? Like that we kind of retell it? Or what? How does it become our story?
Yeah, so the way it becomes a story is through ritual, telling the story, right? And so the sacrament is how the atonement has been ritualized. And it's not just bread and water. We believe that it's literal access to the power of God in some mysterious way. but the most important stories are ritualized and taken up and retold and told. And it's our job to try to decide which stories best represent reality. Now, the reason why I love Elder Cook's statement here so much.
You're so smart, Stephn.
Oh, thank you. That's really kind, David.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. But the reason why I love Elder Cook's quote so much is because central to our tradition story are the pioneers. And I don't know if I have direct ancestry. I think I have some sort of indirectly.
I think mine chased the pioneers. One time I was in Nauvoo, and there's that house you could go to, and they're like, everyone always has an ancestor who lived in Nauvoo. We bat 1,000 at this place. And I looked up I was like, on the computer, and the cute sister missionary lady who was there was like, well, you're the first one who doesn't have anybody.
Yeah. And,
so mine probably were martyrs. They died on the way. They never had an address. It's my story.
And so, but even though I don't have biological connection to the pioneers, or at least not very direct, those are our people. And so central to our identity as Latter-day Saints is sacrifice and faith and diligence. And frankly, those stories are filled with radical miracles.
Yeah.
And so we are a people that believe in the hand of God and who work together communally to accomplish great things and frankly to try to reach Zion together.
Yeah.
And I just think that we can't ever forget that. When the Elder Quorum president's going to send me the email about cleaning the church on a Saturday morning, I can't forget Martin and Willie. I got to remember that stuff. Like this, of course we'll help out. Of course we'll build. Of course we'll sacrifice. Of course we'll go on missions. That's who we are as a people.
Yeah. Oh, that's actually so compelling. I had a thought right as you were like finishing saying that. Oh, it was this, that it's almost as if, so in our temple rituals, it's the story of Adam and Eve, but we view it as if it's our story, right? It's like their story sort of becomes our narrative, right? We watch this rebellion and a fall and a redemption in them, which was a true story, but I see it as like a type of mine, right? And then I was just thinking the same thing about the pioneers too, where you're just like, oh, that's a true story. It's not my story, but it kind of is, where I'm on my way, to a promised land, and I'll run into storm and I'll run into wolves, and we'll do it together and we'll sing along the way. And anyways, it just becomes, even though it's a true story, it becomes a type, right. of what my journey actually looks like.
Yeah. And
it's cool.
And it's so important that instead of trying to start with the world's stories and then make the gospel fit into that we start first and foremost with,
what would that look like? Did I put you on the spot for that?
No, it'd be something like this. It's like, here are 5 ways to be happy. And then you name a whole bunch of things, and then you just mention a scripture story kind of in between, and then keep going. You're basically...
What's wrong with that stuff? Saying that's mingling with scripture.
I mean, it's not... I mean, that probably could be done in a way that's fine, absolutely. But it's sort of like, do I start with the premises or the ideas of what the world is? So, for example, one of the narratives we see in the world is your job is just to feel amazing all of the time. That's sort of the indirect message we get. And then people might say, see, the gospel will help you feel awesome all of the time. And it's like, well, there's something better than just feeling good all the time. It's love. Yeah. It's love of God. It's love of others, right? And so we tell the story of the pioneers because they challenge some of the narratives that we face, in our culture. And I promise, and I want to witness that a story that's built on sacrificial love towards God and towards other people is infinitely more meaningful. It has infinitely more vital. Those Martin and Willie handcart people. That's the way to live. Now, we're not saying embrace sadness for the sake of it, but that kind of self-sacrificial love, that is the heart of our story of Jesus, who is the ultimate example of self-sacrificial love. I'm talking a lot today, Dave.
I'm liking it. You see me? I'm like sitting here like I'm at a campfire or something like that. I'm like, everyone's just listening, but I'm seriously I'm like sitting on those little stairs in the elementary school classroom, with the teacher reading the book. This is great.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, you're making me like Trek. When we went on Trek, I've only been one time, and it was as an adult. I never went as a kid, but I went as an adult. If you don't know Trek, sometimes our people dress as pioneers and reenact. these stories. I didn't know how to say that in a non-weird way, but
it requires some context.
Yeah, it does require context. But I remember going and thinking to myself, this is going to be hard, to camp or whatever, because I don't love camping. But I was like, I'm not doing a hard thing for Jesus by going on trek. Like, this is not for him. But instead, it was to like put an anchor in my mind of those stories, of like stories of sacrificial love. Like, I'm gonna engage in it, not ritualistically, but reenacting wise, as a way to like anchor in my mind, my story. It was like, oh yeah, like, and some things too is like, they made it, they did it, and I was like, I can make it, I can do it in my own story. So
yeah, I mean, think about how healthy it is for teenagers to take up that identity.
Yeah.
That's such a crucial time in their life to say, oh, this is who we are. These are our people.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome. Okay. Wow. When you started, I didn't think it was going to be that good, but ended up being so awesome. All right. Here's my number 3. This part, where if you're unaware about this story, like 2 of the groups of people who were coming across the United States with handcarts, those were like wagon things that they pulled themselves, because the big wagons with the mules or whatever, oxen. I don't know why I thought it was a mule, but what is a mule? Anyways, those were too expensive, the big ones. And they had this plan of these carts that they would pull, and you could put 100 pounds of your stuff in it and genuinely like be the mule, as you went through. And they got stuck. 2 of those groups got stuck in a storm. They're called the Martin and Willie handcart companies. And if you've been around the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, you've probably heard about them before. But if you're new, that's who they are. That's who Stephn was talking about when he said Martin and Willie earlier, in case you were like, who they? But okay, so there's the background here. But when they found out, they're on their way to Salt Lake City. That's where the majority of the people were. And when the people in Salt Lake City found out that they were stuck and had run out of food, and it was a snowstorm, Brigham Young, who was the president of the church at the time, the prophet, stood up in general conference, and he was talking about, everyone, our brothers and sisters are out there, and we've got to help them. And then this line, it says, go and bring in those people now on the plains. That story, the first time I heard it, hit my heart like Cupid's arrow, because I'm so touched, I'm so moved by this gathering of saints for general conference. It's like, here, let's all gather and talk about our faith. And that the Brigham Young stood up and said, we're actually going to live it instead this weekend. Go home, grab whatever you've got in your house, get ready, and go out and get those people. They need our help. And one of the things I love about this, a couple paragraphs back, Elder Cook uses this line: despite warnings, both companies departed for Salt Lake too late in the season, which makes you think that was probably avoidable, what you did. And I don't know enough about it to say one way or the other. And that's not the point. But let's pretend that there really were warnings, and they really were strongly advised not to go, and they still did it anyways, and it's their fault. I just like connecting those 2 together, that God is a God who says, despite the fact that I warned you, you are now in a problem, and I am sending people to rescue you. And I think that's beautiful. That's a beautiful picture of the heart of God, and the heart of somebody who's got the spirit of a rescuer in them, right? The spirit of Jesus will be a spirit of rescue. That's what he came to be and to do. And I think this is beautiful. It's beautiful. Like that call, seriously, strums my heart like a harp. Just, I'm so drawn to that call. Like, go out and get them. They need your help. And I just think that's the heart and soul of what Christianity is. It was the heart and soul of Jesus's mission, so it's got to be the heart and soul of Christianity, right? The Father who said, I'm sending you out there to rescue them. They need your help. Despite all the warnings, they need you. And God sent his son, and he sent all of us on not that same mission, but ones that echo it, to bring those people in. There's nothing that draws me more to Christianity than that concept.
Yeah. In some traditional Christian liturgies, or what they do on Sundays, a significant part about how they worship is how they frame leaving church. And now you go out into the world. And when we leave church, we go home and are with our family. At least my family, we go home and that's great and that's wonderful. We should, right? Absolutely. But the spirit of what Brigham is doing there at that general conference is, we gather here to get ready to go out and be rescuers. That's what we're really trying to do when we worship and get together and say, we're meeting together as a people so that we can prepare ourselves to go out and gather people in.
Yeah, doesn't he say something like that about the temple, I think, in here? Where is it? He quotes President Nelson. Oh yeah, this. Temple blessings help to prepare a people who will help prepare the world for the second coming of the Lord. And that's not exactly what you're saying, but kind of along that same lines. Like, why do we go to temples? Oh, so that we could be prepared to take the blessings of that place and the promises of that place and the story of that place out,
right?
To everybody else.
Yeah. Okay, here's my number 2. That was awesome, Dave. Really good.
Number dos.
Okay, this is Elder Cook speaking about a painting called Between Storms.
I'm so glad you picked this. This was one. This was one of mine. I'm so glad right now.
So he says this: the painting was clearly not intended to depict the tragedies that had occurred. As I gazed at it, I thought, this painting is correct. The vast majority of handcart pioneers did not experience tragedies. I could not help feeling that this is like life in general. Sometimes we are between storms, and sometimes between clouds and sunshine. Here's the good news.
Thank you for sunshine. Thank you for rain. That's what I was just thinking of. Do you know that little song?
You know how people talk about, like, what if we lived in a Broadway musical? When you hang out with Dave Butler, it's like that, guys.
I've never actually thought that in my life.
All the time. He just
living
burst
in
out.
A Broadway.
He just burst out into song.
Who's talking about that, by the way?
You never heard that? People are like,
you said that like it's happening on the regular. People are like, I wonder what it's like to live in a Broadway. It's like nobody wonders that.
I think one of the times I remember someone talking about, I'm reaching back here, was at a Peter Breinholt concert, and he did this like whole skit around it. It was,
Okay.
Anyhow.
But thank you. Okay, so what do you want to say about those?
So just really fast. Here's the good news, is that the gospel of Jesus Christ gives us the anchor, the foundation, the rock, to be able to withstand the storms and the sunshine. There's something about being connected to God through our covenants that allows us to enjoy fully when things are good, going well, and fully take that in with gratitude and love. But even during the storms, there's beauty in a storm. And it's not pain it's obviously an incredibly difficult thing to go through, but the flip side of pain is something we care about, something we love.
Yeah.
And so even in the difficulty, we can see something beautiful, and that allows us to weather it. And so the good news is that we have that anchor.
Yeah. And what I thought about with that one was, I feel like sometimes I hear people say, probably more often than the Broadway comments, I hear people say, if life is going good, there's almost like careful because the trouble's coming, kind of thing. And that's always rubbed me wrong. I'm just like, what? Why? Maybe because I'm an optimist at heart or something, but I'm just like, wait, why? Why do you have to like assume that's like, and I know troubles and anguish are part of the mortal journey, but we don't have to like expect them or imagine that there's some quota for them. It's like, oh, sorry, you're actually due. There's no like manager in heaven saying you're due for a tragedy in your life right now.
In connection with that, if you're always focusing on it, you'll find more than are really, you'll
especially with the access we have to information in the world.
You'll emphasize it in ways that are not healthy.
Yeah. But I do love thinking the reversal of that. Like I listened to it and I was like, I want the reversal of that to become more prominent, which is if someone's in a time of storm, for somebody else to say like, oh, well, don't worry because the sunshine's coming. Yeah. which is true, that life can either be like storm to storm to storm, or it can be light to light to light, is how we could see it. But I'm going to switch my number. No one needed to know what order my comments were in, but this one that I was going to have is one of mine. I actually really like this one. It says, well, okay, first he says this: there seems to be a full measure of anguish, sorrow, and often heartbreak for everyone, including those who earnestly seek to do right and be faithful. And first of all, that comment is, I think, so important theologically to understand that doing what's right, trying to do what's right, and trying to be faithful is not to prevent sorrow, anguish, and heartbreak. I think it prevents some of it, but it's mortality. Like our desire to do what is right and be faithful has everything to do with our relationship to God and relationship to other people. And it doesn't have anything to do with like
circumstances.
Yeah. And the pitfalls of mortality. God's job is not like anguish and sorrow. So the way I relate to him and he relates to me is independent of like anguishes and sorrows in life. But this line, 2 lines that I loved, he says, this is part of the purging to become acquainted with God. That is so, it's like this. My friend Hillary Weeks wrote this song once called A Beautiful Heartbreak. And I love that dichotomy there of it takes some time and it takes some perspective. But I think a couple paragraphs, he quoted this dad who died on the journey. And before he died, he said this: I do not regret all we've gone through if our boys can grow up and raise their families in Zion. And the perspective on that and the hope that the gospel of Jesus Christ allows that's remarkable. And I believe that one day everybody will say, I don't regret all I've gone through if it meant, fill in the blank right there. If it meant that heaven came and grew in us and in our relationships and in our way. So that is such it's such a hard part to, it's easier to talk about than it is to live. But there is, we become acquainted with God in it. And I think I would say I can, one day we'll look back on things in this life and say, I don't regret all that we went through because I became acquainted with God in the process of it.
It's beautiful. And that was actually my number 1, Dave.
Oh,
honest truth. You can see right there.
Thievery.
I just want to emphasize that phrase. I do not regret all we have gone through if our boys can grow up and raise their families in Zion. And here's the good news. The sacrifice is worth it for all the different reasons you enumerated, and also for this very reason as well, that we get to be a part of this community.
Yeah.
That we're a part of Zion. Just about a week or so ago, the bishop in the other ward, we had a stake youth activity. We were getting ready for a YSA, and the bishop in the other ward was trying to convince my son, and actually both of my sons, and I think their friends. I think one was just there that night, and the other one was working. And to participate in the line dancing, he said, "I'll take you out to, is it Cane's, the chicken place?"
Come on with that cane sauce.
And and so they jumped in the line dance and they did it, and then he took all these boys to to get some chicken there. And most people don't do things like that. I'm so thankful to be a part of this community where we give a lot for the kingdom of God in this church. Like time and resources, 100% worth it.
Yeah.
100% worth it. Think you could never reach the bottom of all the joyful memories that have come from being a part of the kingdom of God, for being a part of Zion here on earth. And so that's the good news.
Awesome.
The sacrifice is worth it.
I like calling it kingdom community.
There you go.
That's my word for it. Okay, my number 1. This is quick. Part of this Willie and Martin handcart company, if you don't know the story, they find this cove. And they nicknamed it Martin's Cove because Martin was there. And it's a cut out of the mountain. Have you ever been there?
Yeah.
It I was there in an October storm. It was so cold. I was so happy that I was getting to experience it. And you step into that cove and it's like significantly warmer and significantly protected. It's sort of amazing. It's kind of magic. And a friend of mine was there and what do you call a rock person?
Geologist?
Yeah, whatever. But land.
Archaeologist?
No, isn't that a dinosaur guy? Anyways, but whatever. Someone who studies like things like that, coves and rocks. And she talked about that there's not very many like that in the world, that what it would take wind pattern wise and everything. And she said this was formed hundreds and thousands of years ago. And it made me think about how God had prepared a place for them, a place of refuge, so many hundreds of years before they ever got there. It makes me think of the world before this one, the premortal world, when he was preparing a refuge and a rescue for all of us before, we ever got here. And I love that they found that place there. But then it says this line about when they finally got to Salt Lake City. That was like along the way. They had a marvelous greeting and were welcomed into the homes of the saints. And I wrote in my little notes in my phone, I was like, a second Martin's Cove. That there was prepared for them the homes of the saints in Salt Lake, ready to welcome them in. And I just kind of committed when I read this to myself. I was like, I want my house to be David's Cove. I want it to be a place where people can come in somewhere on that journey and find refuge and find safety in there until the end, right? Because the end is this promise. Elder Cook says, all that's unfair about life can be made right through the atonement of Jesus Christ. Eventually, that's the promise to everybody who's in a storm or a sunshine moment. Until then, God has prepared these coves of refuge, and some of them will have street addresses. And I want mine to be one of them. So...
And we go do that. We don't wait. We're not passive. We help build that.
Go out,
and go and make your home a cove. And rather than waiting for other people to do it, make it happen. Be proactive, and we can help build the kingdom of God here on earth.
Yeah, it'll be worth it, as you said. So awesome. Okay, that's Revival. I'm revived. Okay, see y'all next week. Man, I hope you feel thrilled and revived with the good news and the thrill of faith. If you want to find more, go to goodnewsbrandco.com. You can check out our Instagram, Good News Brand Co. We also have an app where we include all the podcasts and all the freebies and all the gives there. Just trying to fill your life with some good news. We'll see you next week.